Hello, everyone. My name is Teresa Homsi, and you're listening to the special Earth Week podcast series where we talk sustainability. I'm joined here today by Kathleen Hart to discuss cultural sustainability. Kathy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about you?
All right. I'm good. It's a Friday. It's a nice day out.
Nice and sunny.
Yes. All right. Well, I guess we're going to kind of hop right into introductions. I said your name, but that doesn't really say much about who you are. So can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do, your background?
I'm going to introduce myself in my language, and then I'll give you a little background. So, Ani Niwa Benaziqua and Dishikas, Rosebush, Michigan, and Donjaba, Nagizi, and Dodum, Anishinaabe, and Down. What I said my spirit name is War Eagle Woman, and I'm from Rosebush, Michigan, and I am of the Eagle Clan, and I'm an Ojibwe woman. My English name is Kathleen Hart. I work at the Saginaw Chippewa Tribal College as an equity program coordinator. I've been working here for about 10 years now. I work with the students in the STEAM student organization, and I mentor students that are part of a scholarship that's under the grant. I also work on enhancing the science program and do recruitment and retention.
You cover a lot of bases, what you do at the tribal college.
There is, we all wear different hats because it's small and the staff is small. So everybody has to cover, different areas and help when needed. So we do a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm. See, I only know of you from Eric as far as working on the Ondawad, composting, and recently the garden project. So, that's kind of how I had the pleasure of getting to know you. But I thank you for being here today. So I guess with that, I'm going to get into my main question I've been asking everyone. What does sustainability mean to you?
Sustainability is our existence. It's being able to provide for your family. You can grow what food you can that's going to last you throughout the year. You can get your meat and eggs from local farmers, and reduce your footprint as much as you can by recycling, reusing, reducing, and composting.
And I've asked a lot of people that same question. Every answer is somehow different. They all, I've never heard the same answer to that question. So usually it's a matter of perspective and how you perceive it, because it's such a broad and oftentimes holistic thing. So going from there, what's your sort of connection to sustainability? What brought you to where you are today?
So when I was a teenager, I started noticing the litter, things being dumped on the side of the roads, and people not caring about our land. So that's when I started caring, and I tried changing my way of living. I wouldn't litter, and I didn't just dump stuff on wherever, I made sure that it was taken care of in a proper way. Right now, so that's when I was younger, when I was living with my parents, and these are things I started doing. When I got into my own place, then I started trying to reduce my footprint. So right now, I recycle, I reuse things, I reduce my waste. I use greener products, I use less energy. I buy from local farmers. And I'm going to start growing my own foods. I haven't yet, but actually I did. Last year we started a garden, and we got quite a bit of food from it. And so that was my beginning of gardening. So now I'm going to start doing it at home, and I'm going to start doing it for myself and just start small, and then add on each year, because you don't want to overwhelm yourself when you start this, because then it's probably going to be man, this is too much work. I'm not going to do this now. So that's what I want to do. And so that's what brought me from where I'm at today. My connection to sustainability is I'm an Indigenous person, and our ancestors lived sustainably, and they knew the importance of preserving and respecting all living things. Everything has a spirit, and everything is our relatives. We're all connected to each other, and we create that balance upon Mother Earth that's needed for survival.
But yeah, so I guess with that, we can transition to the next one. So in your own words, what does cultural sustainability mean to you? And how might that be different than what the general public might perceive as sustainability?
So cultural sustainability would mean like protecting our Mother Earth, trying to keep that balance, respecting everything, trying to reduce as much as possible. Always give thanks for what is provided to you, and always think 7 generations ahead. You know, some people don't think that way, and it's like a lot of it, because sustainability can mean different things to different people, but to be sustainable is to be respectful in what you do and how you live, and trying to make sure that you don't take advantage of what is given to you. Always be thankful for it, because you don't want to just take advantage and not care. In the past experiences, that term has never really came up. This is the first time that someone has actually asked me that question, or has put it in this context, like cultural sustainability.
That's something that I was wondering about, because for me it was a new concept, but I think that it might just be part of, I don't want to say trends, because trend sometimes sounds a little bit frivolous, but it's part of maybe a movement. I know that, especially when we're talking about environmentalism, historically, environmentalism has been fringed with a lot of problems. And so, like, the early environmental movement in the US was very much a naturalist movement, where it kind of justified a lot of land grabs, the creation of national parks. It was very much this like disconnect from nature, and we have to preserve nature, but to preserve nature, we have to remove people from it. And it's a tainted history. And I think that only recently are people starting to acknowledge that. And especially like when it comes to conservation as well. I've taken some conservation classes now, and we're starting to learn about how conservation is, sometimes when trying to engage in conservation projects, people don't engage with like locals and stakeholders, and conservation is a justification to do land grabs and land enclosures. Yeah. And that's something that we see it's happening still today, but it's under this new guise. We always kind of blame industry for land grabs, but sometimes even with the best intentions, and so maybe I don't know. Where do you think that cultural sustainability? Where do you think this discussion is really coming from? Why is it new, and why are you just hearing it today? Then
I guess it would be, and I don't know. I don't want to say that this is the way it is or anything. This is just what like in my opinion, is that people are starting to notice that Indigenous people have always lived sustainable. And Indigenous people have survived for centuries, thousands of years, and they didn't just kill everything. They didn't strip, what they could and take, everything that they could. They were always thinking about, the future, always thinking about the future generations. A lot of Indigenous people do. And they know that, that to be able to live, to be able to survive, they have to do things in a certain way. They can't just, be disrespectful and, take everything. And so I think that's where the cultural part of it is coming into that sustainability, because I know like in the past, people have always talked about cultural things and, how people are cultural and what your culture is, what your tradition, how you live. Sustainability was, another word. They were separate. They weren't together. So it's like, I'm thinking that now they want to incorporate that, the culture, your culture with the sustainability. And everybody's culture is different. We're depending on where you live, where you grow up at. Because in just one city, you can have several different cultures. And it's not based upon your race. Culture can be based upon, how you were brought up. So it's like, I'm looking at it as my culture. So somebody else might look at that cultural sustainability in their culture. So it's new, but it's going to be, you will get a lot of different answers because they can answer it in many different ways.
I think cultural sustainability definitely speaks a lot to, I work for the DEI office here. So we learn about diversity, inclusion, and equity, right? The DEI and I think that, so I've spoken about social sustainability, which kind of acknowledges the social aspects of sustainability, sort of, acknowledging environmental racism, kind of moving toward environmental justice, but the way sometimes cultural and social get kind of warped together. And so at least my personal way of differentiating between the two is that, yes, cultural sustainability is also about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but it's more so valuing how people are different. That's something that a lot of people I think get confused about diversity is, they think, oh, diversity just means like having lots of people, but it's not just having like lots of people, it's respecting and admiring the ways in which people are different, because that's kind of how we can create a better world, is by having different perspectives and different sorts of ways of life, but in a way that they're included, hence the inclusion, and equitable, where those differences aren't something that hinder people or create some sort of hierarchy, which is kind of where we've been for most of history. And so it's a big challenge kind of in bringing that in, especially, I know that when I talk about sustainability, it's almost completely environmentally focused. But it doesn't necessarily have to be about the environment, because all of those things that I just said are things that I personally think we should strive for.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I hope people would agree with me on that one. So,
and that's because as I was, not trying to answer, but think about how to answer that question. It was there was a couple of questions that I came at, what do we need to do to make sure that future generations have the pleasure to have what we have? How can we change what we do to make sure the animals and the plants and the medicines and everything that is here upon the creation, is available for future generations? Because if things keep going the way it's going, there's not going to be everything that we see now is not going to be available for the future. Our great grandchildren, they might not see what we have the pleasure to see. Things could, it can be very devastating, or it could be, if things are not changed.
Sometimes I think when I'm talking about all this stuff, people kind of peg me as an idealist, that I'm being a little bit naive here. And, so I do get a little bit kind of pessimistic about the state of things and question whether or not collectively, collectively is a hard thing to say because, like I said, there's a lot there. I don't, sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, that's a whole other thing. But collectively, whether or not humanity is capable of changing and improving, I think we can all agree that we have a lot of potential, but can we like actualize that? What do you think of that? Do you think that we can improve?
I think, well, it's going to take, each individual person to make that change, because collectively, overall, it's going to be hard, because the economy, a lot of people will think about the economy and, okay, how are you going to live? You need money, you need this. But if you change, like, I've been talking with a group of people, and we have been talking about like starting our own community, and being able to be sustainable, living off the land, growing our own foods, supporting the local farmers, doing, using less energy, not having to have, do we have to have that electricity? We could go, but centuries ago, people did not have, they used different ways to have light, or just go to sleep when it gets dark. It's like, days over, lay down, get some rest or relax or whatever, but it's like, so things that people can do different things, just like with what I did. And that's why I was, I thought, well, I'm not going to make a difference. Whatever I do, it's not going to make a difference because I'm only one person. But if everybody had that same thought, then things would not change. So if you think that you're gonna, because one person can make a difference. You recycle. When in my neighborhood, I always recycled, and when they start picking up recycling, I was probably one of the first people in the neighborhood that was always putting out the recycle stuff. And I had it separated, and the guy tells me, I really appreciate that you separate everything. He goes, because nobody else does it. He said, I have to separate it out when I come and pick it up. And so, but now there's more and more people that are recycling, because it might take one person to start doing something. And if other people see you doing that, then they're going to say, okay, I can do that. So it's like, it's just, people have to individually start doing things. And I think it's going to, it'll pick up. I'm not, I can't say that it would be, everybody is going to be like that, but the more people that tend to do things like that, the better it's going to be.
And I think to sort of add to that, to kind of answer my own question there too, I don't think it's a matter of whether or not we can change or whether or not we're capable of it. It's just a matter of that we need to and we should. And so that's just kind of where we're at right now. But you were kind of talking around it a little bit, but to directly address it, who do we need to get involved in sustainability, cultural sustainability? Who do we need to get involved?
A couple of the departments within the tribe, like Seventh Generation, for instance. They have their community gardens, they have the greenhouse, they have, they tap trees, stuff like that. So people or organizations or groups that are doing things like that would probably be the ones that you want to tap into first, to get involved. And then it's like, and there's a lot of people that do. You just don't. I didn't really realize how many people did that, and if they are sustainable. But the more people that I meet that are, the more people that I see are. So I guess it's just, start by people that that do, and then you're going to find more people that do.
Taking it a little bit back to cultural sustainability, what's the importance in kind of recognizing and uplifting various cultures, local cultures, and traditional knowledge?
It's important because indigenous people always use what they need, so that there will always be some left. They thought about the future. They always give thanks, like I mentioned before, recognizing that everything is living and has a spirit. Will help people. This will help people think differently about what they use and how they use it. Is because some people will think that, like for instance, I've heard someone use this as an example before, is that they like a rock. They don't think that a rock is living. They don't think that rock has a spirit, but it does. It's a living thing and it has a spirit. Trees are living, they have spirits. The water is a living spirit. It's everything is living. And if people think of everything being a living being, then they might think differently about harming it or hurting it or overusing it, and so that's what I try to do. I try to think about all that when I'm out, and it helps me it helps me be more connected to the earth, to Mother Earth, and all creation, because if you think of it like that, then it's just, I think it helps. It changes your view and what you would do and how you would do it.
I think that kind of goes into my next question, as far as what sort of advice you would have for people in regards to cultural sustainability, or sustainability just in general.
I would try, like, make that connection to the land. Take time to go outside and walk barefooted, feel the ground underneath you. Sit under a tree, hug a tree, listen to nature. Feel the wind, listen to the water flow. Respect our earth. Look at the beauty around you. Don't over harvest. Don't strip her of all the resources. Reduce your footprint. Think of future generations. That's just, them are only some things, but make that connection and, see everything as a living being. And I think people will think differently about things.
I think that's pretty solid advice. It's definitely something that I've never been instructed to do. I guess my grandma, I suppose, would make me go hug trees when I was walking around, like find the biggest one and hug it and thank it. But I guess that's my own sort of heritage there, just with my grandma. But
because that helps you make that connection, and just if people think of things differently, it's not just a tree sitting there that you can cut down and make paper with, toilet paper, so it's not, just something, so that people don't think that, this is not hurting, it is, it's hurting everything, it's the balance, and the earth is like, it's getting all out of whack because there's not that balance. And that's why things are happening the way they're happening. Global warming, or climate change, I should say. No, they don't use global warming anymore. They use climate change. Things like that. All that stuff is happening for a reason. And it's because of the balance. There isn't that balance. And that's what we need. We need to have that balance.
I think appreciation is a good way to go about just kind of pursuing that balance. So I wrote that one down because, like I said, that's not something that I hear often. I suppose as we're kind of wrapping up, to our listeners, what sort of takeaways would you want them to have from this conversation that we've had so far, if you had to summarize?
I would say just think of things that you that you can do individually to reduce your footprint, and be respectful of of creation, and make that connection. It's going to help you as an individual in the long run. You're going to feel much better. It helps with stress. It helps with there's so many things that just being outside, being with nature, it's like it helps you in a lot of ways.
All right. Well, unless you have any other final thoughts, I'm gonna kind of close this up. But I want to thank you first for coming out here today. I know that today was supposed to be your day off, so I appreciate you having this conversation with me. And the way I've been kind of concluding these is by just reminding everyone that although this podcast is being done for Earth Week, and it'll be released around that time, every day is Earth Day. And so that's kind of how I'm ending him on that reminder. So far, no one has disagreed with me. The guests I've had have disagreed with me on that one.
Yeah, Earth Day should be every day. That should be. Yes. Definitely. I say that too. And I want to thank you for asking me to be involved with this. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Well, I appreciated your company and your wisdom. I've been jotting some things down that you've said, so I appreciate it.